let's talk about why some clients struggle to make decisions. Here are a couple of reasons that I've seen come up over and over. So the first one is too many choices and they have decision fatigue. This is so true, especially if you are doing like a major renovation or a new build. Usually by the time they've come to you, they have been scrolling through Pinterest for 6 months, 12 months, years possibly, and they have so many options in front of them and they're very overwhelmed. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Tuesday episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. And today I'm talking about something that I am sure you have all experienced at some stage, the client who just can't make up their mind. You know the one. The client falls in love with a sofa on Monday, changes their mind by Wednesday, and by Friday they're sending you 5 more options. Or worse, they approve a material selection, only to want a complete revision once you've placed the order. So how do you manage these clients? How do you guide indecisive clients without losing your sanity or delaying projects? So that's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to share some strategies for addressing indecisiveness, setting decision deadlines, and using a structured process to help clients feel confident in their choices without the endless back and forths. And as you might have guessed, the answer is that you really need a very good process around your design process. So before we get into the solutions, let's talk about why some clients struggle to make decisions. Here are a couple of reasons that I've seen come up over and over. So the first one is too many choices and they have decision fatigue. This is so true, especially if you are doing like a major renovation or a new build. Usually by the time they've come to you, they have been scrolling through Pinterest for 6 months, 12 months, years possibly, and they have so many options in front of them and they're very overwhelmed. The second one is the fear of making the wrong choice. They don't want to regret their decision, so they keep second guessing. Everything has to be the perfect decision. The emotional attachment to the project, especially if they're designing their forever home, the pressure to get it right feels even higher. And the fourth and mostly the most frustrating one as a designer is the influence from family and friend. You know, the one when you get the email on the Monday morning and they've been at a barbecue and their second cousin had some opinions that they wanted to share about the tile selection in the second bathroom. When you understand why your client is hesitating, you can approach the situation with empathy and structure. So let's talk about how to prevent indecision before it even starts. One of the biggest mistakes designers make is leaving decisions open-ended. When clients feel like they have unlimited time to choose, they are going to keep changing their mind. Here's a couple of things that you can do in your process to really get on top of this. The first is including deadlines in your contract. Make it clear that clients need to approve selections by specific dates to keep the project on track. So every time you issue a new schedule or you issue something that they need to make a decision on, make sure you set a deadline for when they need to make that decision by. Use a decision window. Give clients 48, 72 hours to finalize a choice. This keeps momentum going and it just means that they don't have the time to think about it too much. Explain the consequences of delays. If changes are going to impact the timeline or budget, let clients know that up front. It is amazing how quickly a client will just be like, no, I'm happy with how it's going, or yep, we'll just stick with that one, if they realize there's going to be a budget blowout or a time delay. And usually a time delay is going to equal a budget blowout anyway. Another really great trick, and I show this in my documentation in my pre-client phase, is using a visual timeline. a really simple graphic of showing when you need to be making decisions and when you are going to be needed to kind of be in that decision mode. It helps the client understand when they are going to need to be really switched on to the project, when you're going to need them to be available for meetings. And it just really helps set them up from the very start that these are the times I need to kind of plug in, and these are the times I can switch off and not worry about it. Another way to reduce indecisiveness is just by limiting the options in the first place. Clients often think that they want more choices, but too many options lead to confusion and second guessing. Don't ever give them 10 different tile options. Narrow it down to maybe 3, maybe 2. I know a lot of designers who don't actually give any options. They give it a scheme, and that's the scheme. And maybe there might be some discussion around 1 or 2 pieces in that scheme, but it's never that the client gets multiple options for every single part of the scheme. A great way of framing this with the client, especially if they're expecting that they're going to be given lots of options, is to say something along the lines of, based on your style and budget and what works best for this space, here is the scheme that I have put together. Each piece in this scheme has been carefully selected to align with your design vision. Let's go through them together and finalize this scheme. It makes them really see that this is an overall scheme. It's not little individual pieces. It's one overall scheme. This approach also really saves time. There's less back and forth. It builds trust with the client. You are showing the client that you are the expert and the authority figure in this space. You don't need to show them multiple things to choose from because you know that this scheme as a whole works really well together. It's also going to keep the project moving. When they know choices are curated, they feel more confident in making a decision. They're not trying to pick a tile in isolation. They are just signing off on a whole scheme. If a client keeps asking for more options, you really do need to set a boundary. Say something like this: I totally understand you want to explore all possibilities, but adding more options at this stage can slow down our progress. Let's revisit when you've already selected and confirmed what works best. This reassures them that while keeping the process streamlined, you're staying on track and you are in control. And that is what you need to be constantly reassuring your client, that you are in control. Even with the best structure, some clients will change their minds after approving something. Here's how to handle it professionally. Use a change of order process. If a client wants to swap out a material or a furniture piece after it's been approved, have them sign a formal change order with an additional fee. This discourages unnecessary changes. And it's really important that you talk about the fee when this whole kind of I want to change something comes up. If in your fee proposal you do not have an allowance for change of mind after a certain point in the process, you need to put that into your fee proposal. So you are saying, we understand that sometimes you will change your mind at a later point in the project. When that occurs, we will talk about the fee that will be involved to accommodate that. Because if they're changing their mind and you're having to do all this extra work, that is more time that you are spending on their project. Really emphasize the financial and timeline impact. Frame it in practical terms. If we change the sofa now, there's a restocking fee of $500 plus a 6-week delay. Would you like to proceed? Once again, put it back on them. Make it their decision to go through with the change. So often, changes are them just getting cold feet, and just a little bit of reassurance, a little bit of maybe going over the schedule again, going over the scheme, and you will soon find that most of them are happy to stick with the original item. And the third thing that's really good for this is creating a final approval step. So you might have a process where I hope you have a process where you are gaining client approval, but having like one final process where you kind of just before you place the order, have a final approval meeting with clients where they sign off selections, it just reduces those last minute changes. By having clear policies around revisions, you are protecting your time, the budget, and the sanity of every designer involved, while still allowing flexibility when necessary. Managing indecisive clients isn't just about keeping projects on track. It's about making the process less stressful for both you and them. So just to recap what we've talked about today, here's a couple of things to remember. Make sure you are setting decision deadlines to avoid delays. Limit options to help clients feel confident, and use a structured approval process to prevent last-minute changes. The goal isn't to rush clients, it's to give them the tools and confidence to make the best decisions efficiently. If you found today's episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with a fellow designer. And don't forget to download my Client Decision Guide. It's a free resource to help you streamline your client approval process. You'll find the link in the show notes, and it's sitting in the resource stockroom. Thanks for tuning into the Design Dialogues today, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.